I lost cucumber harvests to powdery mildew for over a decade, not because I was ignoring it, because I was treating it. Every time white spots appeared, I sprayed. I used every product I could find. I used baking soda sprays, neem oil, copper fungicide, commercial mildew killers. Some of them worked for a week, maybe two. The mildew always came back. I was solving the wrong problem. Here is what it took me too long to understand. By the time white spots appear on a cucumber leaf, the fungus has already colonized 60 to 70% of that leaf. What I was spraying was the reproductive stage of an infection that started invisibly a week before I could see it. Treatment is always chasing something that is already ahead of you. The season I stopped treating and started preventing, everything changed. I have not lost a cucumber plant to mildew in over 10 years. Two things I want you to stay for. First, there is a watering mistake I made for 6 years that was directly causing most of my mildew problem, more than any spray I used or failed to use. I will tell you what it is in the middle of this video. It is the single most important thing here. Second, there is a spacing discovery I made by accident that made the spray almost unnecessary in one of my beds. I will explain that near the end. 2 questions, both answered before this video ends. Stay with me. First, let me tell you what powdery mildew actually is, not from a textbook, from 40 years of watching it behave in my own garden. Powdery mildew is caused by several related fungal species. The spores travel through air. They land on leaf surfaces constantly. Every plant in every garden receives spores every single day of the growing season. Most of the time, nothing happens. The spores land and die because conditions are not right for them to germinate. The conditions they need are specific. A slightly acidic leaf surface, humidity above 50% at the leaf surface, and temperatures between 60 and 80 degrees Fahrenheit. When all 3 conditions exist at the same time, the spores germinate. They push into the leaf tissue and begin establishing the infection. The white coating that appears days later is not where the infection starts. It is the reproductive stage of something that began invisibly underneath, inside the leaf, a week earlier. This is why treatment has always felt like losing ground. I sprayed visible mildew correctly for over a decade. The spray suppressed the white coating temporarily, but the fungus was already established in the tissue below the surface. New reproductive structures appeared within a few days. I was in a permanent reactive loop, and the mildew was always one step ahead. Prevention works differently. Applied to healthy leaves before infection, the spray creates conditions on the leaf surface where spores cannot germinate in the first place. The leaf surface pH rises above the range where fungal germination is possible. The natural compounds in the spray disrupt the spore's ability to initiate infection. No germination means no infection. No infection means no white spots. No white spots means no treatment needed. Walter switched from treatment to prevention in his 16th year of growing cucumbers. I have not had a significant mildew outbreak since that season. The spray recipe I use has 2 main active ingredients, both already in your kitchen. But before I give it to you, I want to explain how it actually works, because most versions of this recipe get one ingredient wrong and it reduces the effectiveness significantly. The base ingredient is baking soda, 1 tablespoon per liter of water. Baking soda is sodium bicarbonate. When dissolved in water and applied to a leaf surface, it raises the surface pH from the slightly acidic range, where fungal spores germinate, to a more alkaline range, where they cannot. The mechanism is direct. change the pH of the surface environment, and the spores fail to establish. I have used baking soda as my primary prevention ingredient for 15 years. The second ingredient is cinnamon powder, half a teaspoon per litre. Cinnamon contains a compound called cinnamaldehyde. Cinnamaldehyde disrupts the cell membrane formation of fungal organisms. When a spore attempts to germinate on a surface treated with cinnamaldehyde, the membrane structure it needs to form its initial infection site is disrupted. The spore fails to establish and dies. Most mildew prevention recipes I have seen do not include cinnamon. I added it after reading about cinnamaldehyde's antifungal properties and testing it over 2 seasons in my own garden. My results with cinnamon added were measurably better than without it. Not slightly better, measurably better. The third ingredient is 2 drops of Castile soap, not dish soap. This is where most recipes go wrong. Dish soap contains synthetic surfactants and degreasers. Applied repeatedly, those compounds damage the waxy protective coating on cucumber leaves. After several applications, you are weakening the plant's own defense while trying to protect it. Castile soap is a pure plant oil soap. It serves as an emulsifier. It helps the baking soda and cinnamon distribute evenly across the leaf surface rather than beading off. It also helps the spray adhere through morning dew and light rain without damaging the leaf coating. One substitution worth making on the water. Use distilled or collected rainwater. Chlorine in tap water can interfere with both the baking soda and the cinnamon at the leaf surface level. I made that switch about 8 years ago and noticed an improvement in how long the spray held on the leaves before needing reapplication. Mix everything in a clean jar. Let it sit for 2 hours before straining through cheesecloth. Spray both sides of every leaf, undersides first. Apply every 14 days from transplant whether mildew is visible or not. Do not wait for white spots. If you are waiting for white spots, you are already behind. That schedule every 14 days from transplant is the part most gardeners skip. They spray when they see mildew and stop when it disappears. The spores are landing every day, regardless of what the leaf looks like. The prevention spray has to be there before they arrive. Now, the watering mistake I promised you. The one I made for 6 years, the one that was causing most of my mildew before I ever had a chance to prevent it. For 6 years I watered my cucumber plants in the evening. It seemed practical. The heat of the day had passed. The water would not evaporate immediately. The plants had the whole night to absorb moisture. My reasoning seemed completely sound. My cucumbers got mildew every season without exception during those years. The connection I eventually made took longer than it should have. Evening overhead, watering leaves moisture on leaf surfaces through the night. Cucumber leaves wetted in the evening stay wet until morning dew burns off the following day. In July, that can mean 8 to 10 hours of continuous moisture on the leaf surface. Fungal spores that land on a dry leaf in the afternoon cannot germinate. The same spores on a leaf that has been wet for 8 consecutive hours germinate rapidly and begin infection. I was creating the perfect germination conditions every single evening with my own watering can. I switched to morning watering applied at the base of the plant only, not overhead, not on the leaves. At the soil surface where the roots are, the leaves stay dry. Spores that land through the day encounter a dry surface and fail to germinate. My mildew incidence dropped by over 80% in the first season after this change alone, before I changed anything about my spray routine. The spray helps. The watering change mattered more. 2 rules I now follow without exception. Water at the base only, never overhead on foliage, and water in the morning only, never in the evening. Both rules serve the same purpose. Keep leaf surfaces dry during the hours when fungal spores are most active. If you absolutely must water in the evening for any reason, water only at the soil surface and avoid any splash reaching the lower leaves. The lower leaves closest to the soil surface are always the first to show mildew. They receive moisture splash during rain and during watering. They are the early warning system. When I see the first white patch on a lower leaf, I remove that leaf entirely, not spray it, remove it. Take it out of the garden and compost it away from the beds. Then I increase spray frequency from every 14 days to every 7 days for the next 3 weeks on all remaining plants. Early removal of the first infected leaf has stopped full outbreaks for me more times than any spray application has. The spacing discovery is coming. But first, I want to cover the underside rule because most gardeners I have talked to spray the wrong surface of the leaf entirely. I sprayed the top surface of cucumber leaves for years. My results were inconsistent in a way I could not explain until I understood where powdery mildew actually initiates. On cucumber leaves, mildew begins almost exclusively on the underside. The underside of a cucumber leaf is where air circulation is lowest. It is where humidity accumulates and stays. It is where spores landing in the still air beneath the leaf canopy find the conditions they need. If you spray only the top surface, you are applying your prevention spray to the surface where mildew rarely starts. The underside receives nothing. I spray undersides first on every leaf, then the top surface. I work from the bottom of the plant upward. Lower leaves first because they are at highest risk from soil splash and reduced air circulation. Upper leaves last. Application timing matters as much as the surface you spray. Morning only. Spraying in afternoon heat concentrates the compounds in the cinnamon on the leaf surface under intense July sun that can cause mild chemical burn on the leaves. Morning application gives the spray time to dry and bond to the leaf surface before peak heat arrives. Evening application leaves wet leaf surfaces overnight, the same problem as evening watering. Everything about this system points toward the same principle. Dry leaves, morning application, base watering only. Create conditions where spores cannot establish and the mildew problem largely manages itself. Now the spacing discovery I promised at the beginning, this one surprised me more than anything else I observed over 40 years. I noticed the pattern over 2 consecutive seasons before I understood why it was happening. One of my cucumber beds, an older established bed, got mildew every year. A bed on the other side of the garden planted the same season almost never did. Same variety, same watering schedule, same spray routine, same soil. Completely different mildew rates. I went through everything I could think of that was different between the 2 beds. The answer was spacing. The older bed had plants crowded closer together. A microclimate had developed between them, still humid air that barely moved even on breezy days. Fungal spores thrive in still humid air. The less crowded bed allowed air to move continuously through the leaf canopy. Spores landing in moving air cannot settle and establish the way they can in still air. I now grow all my cucumbers vertically on a trellis at 18-inch spacing minimum. The trellis keeps leaves separated and in moving air rather than layered on top of each other on the ground. The 18-inch spacing keeps plants from creating the closed, humid microclimate between them that the old crowded bed produced. The combination of vertical training, 18-inch spacing, morning base watering, and the 2-week prevention spray gave me my first mildew-free cucumber season. and every season since. None of these changes required special products. None required ongoing expense. All of them came from watching my own garden carefully enough over enough seasons to notice what was different between the beds that had problems and the beds that did not. The spacing change was the one that surprised me most because it required no products, no schedule, no ongoing effort after transplant, just more space between plants at the beginning of the season. Before I close, I want to be honest about what this system does not fix. Downy mildew is a different disease from powdery mildew, despite the similar name. Downy mildew appears as yellow, angular patches between the leaf veins on the upper surface with grey-purple, fuzzy growth on the underside. It is caused by a water mold, not a true fungus. The baking soda and cinnamon spray has limited effect on downy mildew. It requires a copper-based treatment applied at first sign. If mildew has already spread to more than a third of the plant's leaves, when you start this system, the plant is unlikely to fully recover. Prevention works from the beginning of the season. It cannot reverse established severe infection, and this system requires consistency. Missing 2 consecutive spray applications during July heat is the most common reason gardeners using prevention sprays still have outbreaks. The spores do not take a break. The spray schedule has to match their persistence. Tell me in the comments what zone you garden in and whether mildew has been a recurring problem on your cucumbers. I read everyone. Next video is about the pruning and training method that triples cucumber production from a single plant. Most gardeners let cucumbers sprawl on the ground and lose half their potential harvest to fruit going yellow under the leaves before they ever see it. I train every cucumber vertically and prune in a specific way that keeps plants producing until frost. That video is next. Subscribe. The button is right there. The knowledge is free.